The path of a fighter is one of courage, heart, and determination, putting all things aside to show he is a true warrior, where pain, along with the will to push harder, collide. When he who prospers, he who continues the journey, win or lose, that is who becomes the true champion.
You fucking just read the book, dude, and was like,
Oh,
I think the only thing he was focused on that he caught out of the whole book was how to set the whole thing up.
I live for only one. For only one I live. Underneath the sky at night, I sit and choose my fight. I breathe the ever-ending sorrow for those souls that have gone and passed. I weep for memories of love and moments that never last. I lock away in my soul friendships that have never passed. I reflect upon my life, and the path I chose was right. For I have walked amongst the best, and for this I have been blessed. Bro, you wrote that.
Yep.
What inspired that, man?
Actually, it's kind of my buddy dying. My buddy Basil, kind of just reflecting upon like just different people. You know what I mean? That you meet over throughout your life. You know what I mean? And think about the impact they have on you, and you know what I mean, the lessons you pick up from your different interactions with people and shit. You know, it's that's kind of where I got that from.
That's probably my favorite poem I've ever read, and you wrote it. And you know, I've thought a lot about it just because of you know, like Jake and Jesse and yourself, like all fighters who write these poems, and it just makes me think, like, where does that stuff come from? You know, like, does poetry come from emotion or adversity in life, or like, you know, like what creates something like that? I mean, that was a pretty dark time for you, right? When you wrote that.
Yep.
You were just in a dark place and then just came out.
Yeah, that was some crazy shit. But that's what I got out of it.
Would you say that was just your life right there in that poem?
Pretty much. I mean, if you think about it, like, this is all the people I've met and how I look back on shit and the way everything went over the years. But that's kind of just where it's at, you know?
When you wrote I live for only one I live, were you thinking of God, or were you thinking of yourself, or like?
For myself.
You were thinking for yourself. I live for only one I live. And then you said, underneath the sky at night, I sit and choose my fight. So you're just thinking about what kind of battle you're gonna face in life.
It's like, what do you stand for as a man? You know, what are you willing to stand and fight for? What's important to you? Everybody has to live for themselves. You know what I mean? I mean, you gotta be there for your family and all that, but at the end of the day, when the lights go out, for the last time, it was you that lived that life. So you have to live that life according to what makes you happy. You know what I mean? You have to, you know, live it accordingly to, you know, what you believe in. You know, your values, your outlooks. You know what I mean? And if you don't, then you don't really live, no? That's how I look at it. But
You got to be true to yourself.
yes. Yep.
I breathe the ever-ending sorrow for those souls that have gone and passed.
Yep. All the homeboys that ain't no longer here. You know what I mean? All the people you lose.
I weep for memories of love and moments that never last.
Same thing.
That's just life.
Yep. Because nothing truly ever lasts, right? All good happiness comes to an end in one way or another. All the good times. I mean, I'm sure you can reflect back on any certain parts of your life. Like, that was a really good time in my life. But it's no longer here no more. Right? And we've talked about that stuff before. And that's just what that is. You know, you just got to look back. Sometimes you just look back and you're like, that was some good times. Or
I reflect upon my life, and the path I chose was right.
Yep.
For I have walked amongst the best, and for this I have been blessed.
Yep.
That, to me, I mean, that part right there is just like, wow, you know.
I've walked amongst men. That's what that is. So everything I chose, and the friends I've chose and have chosen me, all had pretty much the same outlook, and therefore I've been blessed to be able to be around solid people.
No, we've talked a lot about that. I mean, it just kind of doesn't make sense how some people walk through life and they're not, you know, they don't have virtue, or they're not looking at things on a deeper level, you know.
Sometimes you believe that something's right, and there's choices you have to make according to that, you know what I mean? Like, you have to cut people off sometimes. You can't associate with certain people because you find out things about people, and you just got to cut them loose, and most people don't have what it takes to be that way. So they'd rather just act like they don't know, just stay in their little world.
To do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. They don't have it in them to do it. It's harder to live that way.
To be about something.
Yeah. You know, if you're standing up for something, and you know you're about to just take a fucking ass whooping for it, how many people will just break it down like, fuck it, dude? We'll say whatever they gotta say to get out of it, instead of being like, nah, fuck you. And just take it like a man. You know what I mean? It's kind of like on that level. They're not willing to sacrifice nothing. That's what I think.
So, I mean, to be like that, you gotta believe in something, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's the only way you're gonna be that type of person, is if you have strong beliefs.
Yep.
I mean, you know, I look at that. When I first read the poem, I took it as like, I live for only one, as being God, you know? That's how I interpreted it, or received it. Communication involves how you're trying to communicate something from your perspective, and then also other people's perception, you know? So there's so much more depth to things. Just, you know, and that's something that lately I've been thinking a lot about more is, you know, I've always had a perspective of myself, but not really considered how other people perceive me so much. And now I'm just starting to realize how much that matters, you know. It's
how people perceive you?
Yeah, like if you're trying to, say you're trying to share a message with somebody, how are they receiving it, you know, considering that, rather than just considering your intention. You can't necessarily expect people to see through to who you really are, right, in life, would you say?
Why not?
Or should you?
No, they should.
The people who do matter will see who.
Everybody should see you by how you carry yourself and how you act. Like, say for instance, you know, yeah, you're just a man. It's all about it, dude. You don't give a fuck. You don't let lames around you. Just fucking just live this life where if motherfuckers ain't men, you don't want nothing to do with them. People will recognize that shit. I mean, every man knows when you walk into a place, every man sizes the other guy up. It's like a bunch of fucking rabid dogs, right? Walk in, oh, that's the big dog right there, right? Every man knows. And they know according to how you carry yourself. You walk in with your head down, scared to look, and they know who you are. But if you walk in with your fucking head held high, like you don't give a fuck, and they know, right? It's how you conduct yourself. In every aspect of your life. At work, at home.
Yeah.
So therefore it is what it is.
No, I mean, I've always thought about like, is it even possible, you know, to be unbiased or to be uninfluenced? It's like...
Uninfluenced by what?
Like, every person, you know, everything they know is taught to them, you know? And it's something, it's not like people learn their own...
No, they do. Not everything is taught to you. You could try to teach somebody something, But you know, there's always those people that have to learn the hard way, right? The only time you truly learn something is when you've experienced it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you ever robbed somebody at gunpoint?
No.
Well, if somebody came along and would try to teach you how to fucking do that, or like, or try to teach you what it would feel like, you couldn't grasp that, right? Until you've done something like retarded like that, right? You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of times you learn that shit through experience. I mean, you could teach people stuff, and you know, obviously, and they can get lessons from it. But I think most stuff has to be learned through your experiences, because that's what makes you who you are. They're not just teaching you by just like, oh, 1 + 1 is 2. You know what I mean? Or, you know, whatever. You're actually learning it by experience because you're living through it. Everybody is pretty much the sum of their experiences. You couldn't grow up in a rich fucking family and just have everything spoon-fed to you and be like, wake up one day, I'm a thug. I come from this. No, you never experienced it. You have no idea. You know, you can go down that route and in 5-10 years be that person. I mean, you're stupid enough to do it, but you know what I mean? But you don't know it, you don't understand it because you never lived it. No, I knew that Sam, because Sam had all the skill, you know what I mean? It was like I couldn't help you guys with fucking jiu-jitsu. I mean, we were I think we were YouTubing, and Kavanaugh was learning, you know, he read some shit in a fucking book one night, and then the next night, you know, he just armbarred every one of us. You know, and it was like, what the fuck, that shit works. I knew Sam knew it, you know what I mean? I was like, he has that shit. And that's why I was like, dude, if you really want to do something with this, you gotta go somewhere where you can do something with it, you know what I mean? Because I ain't teaching no fucking arm bars. I don't even know how to do it. I get being fucking caught in arm bars like this fucking jackass, you know what I mean? I'm like, motherfucker, goddamn John. No, it was cool to see John do that though, you know, you fucking just read the book, dude, and it was like, I think the only thing he was focused on that he caught out of the whole book was how to set the whole thing up. I think he understood that part of it. I mean, obviously he got the whole mechanics of how it's done, but I think he actually paid attention to how to set the motherfucker up, because he would just set us up, dude, and it was like, boom, oh shit.
And then he won his fights by submission, all his fights.
Yep. Yeah, those, that was like his little story of it is like almost one of my favorites. You know, because everything that happened, even with his dad passing afterwards, you know, and the things with his fucking brother dying, and just how, you know, it was fucking rough for him, those people at the end, you know. Oh. And, you know, I remember his parents driving all the way up to fucking Corvallis. Or was it Salem, one or two, huh? It was Corvallis. Or was it Salem?
It was Salem.
Yeah, you know, going up there, his parents go up there and watch him fight, and he won, dude. And his dad was sitting in the audience, and it was just, dude, you could just see the fucking pride in the old man's face, you know what I mean? It was just awesome, and John was so happy, dude. You know what I mean? To go out there and do that, and have his dad there and his mom there, you know what I mean? That was one of the coolest fucking times right there, dude. Yeah, everybody won that night. Again, I must add, again, they all won.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think anyone lost when you were coaching.
No, just that one dipshit, but he never came and trained.
Yeah, he wasn't really on our team, but he fought with us. I
mean, even Frankie he lost, but he won.
Oh, yeah.
It was just because homeboy got him, you know, started, he didn't get him really wrapped up, if I remember correctly, and he just, because he was,
he had asthma.
Yeah, and he was just scared to death of it. But
he just about knocked the guy out, though. I mean,
he was handling that dude. Remember he threw him with like one hand? Like threw him off him, and he was just giving it to him. But the minute he got something around his neck, he just like, he wasn't even aloft, he was just tapped. He was just like scared to fucking, you know.
And then preston was just knocking people out.
And Preston's fucking crazy ass was just fucking handling people, dude. I remember that was that first fight with James, and when I went and cornered him is when I seen Preston fight the first time. And he fought that big old Pillsbury Doughboy. I'm thinking, yeah, that dude's big.
He was big.
And he came in swinging, and he just came right over the top and just smoked him. Bow! That fucking dude just dropped. And I was like, holy shit. Fucking Preston didn't give a fuck, dude. He was like, now what, bitch? I was like, oh yeah, this is where I want to be. These guys are knuckle dicks. I loved it. It was fucking great, dude.
Yeah, no, I mean, then you ended up moving to Brookings, and you coached your cousin. But yeah, that's kind of when we split up.
Yeah, when I took it was pretty much like a job opportunity, something to better my life and my family. When I moved to Brookings, which was kind of kind of the almost like the end of team intense down there. I mean, it stayed for a little bit. You know, turned it over to my buddy Brandon, and he did it for a while. But I think a lot of people at that point kind of just lost willingness to do it. I think they had.
It served its purpose.
Yeah, they'd gotten out of it what they wanted out of it by that point. You know what I mean? Except for like, you know, Agent John and Daniel, like they still had a dog in the fight. These are still things they wanted. You know, Daniel hadn't even fought yet. He was still training, you remember? Mm-hmm. He was still becoming the deer. And of course, you were still fighting, but I think Kavanaugh had gotten everything out of it he wanted out of it, and then some, you know. It was good for him. And then Frankie never fought again. I think he was just happy to be there the whole time. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then, yeah, then it just kind of just fucking ended down there, dude. You know what I mean? And then, I don't know, like, fuck, it was, I went to Brookings, did 6 months there, and then moved back. And I was back for a while, dude. And I remember Sam called me. He was like, yeah, dude, I'm fucking training some guys down here, which I'd heard, one of the homeboys had told me that, I mean, it might have even been you were telling me or something. They were like, yeah, you got a couple guys down there that are like solid. You've been training with them since they were, he was younger, I think, or something.
Jesse, that's
yeah.
Jesse.
And Sam's like, yeah, we're gonna fight, man. You care if we use the Team Intense name? I was like, fuck no, I don't care, dude. That's awesome. You know what I mean? And then you came down. That was sweet. Mm-hmm. That's pretty badass. So it was like it was able to continue on, like the whole idea behind it, you know what I mean? We didn't have a barn though. That was the only downside for us, no barn.
Yeah, we just had the street, I mean.
Yeah, we had that dog shit yard with pine cones in the street. That was horrible. That was pretty bad, dude. Yeah, but then you came down here and started training with Sam. How'd that go for you?
The first part of our journey takes us to Sam Sleazer's house.
Sam's a very like mystical type of person. He doesn't talk a lot. He likes his roosters, you know, and everybody's just kind of drawn to him. You know, everybody's drawn to Sam. It's that kind of thing though, you know, where it's always kind of like a little bit of a mystery is going on at all times with him. You know, you're always just kind of thinking, what is he thinking? What's going on in his head? You know, what is Sam all about or whatever? You know, you're always kind of just wondering, and then he just shows you in some crazy way, and then you just realize it at some point, and you're just like, whoa, he was just on a whole nother level this whole time. You know what I mean? And he's thinking that way. He's thinking on just a completely different plane of thought as everybody else is. And he knows what matters in life. Like, one thing is like, we'll all be going through things and just, it's emotional being a fighter and you're devastated by a loss or this and that. And Sam's just like looking at you and he's observing something you don't even realize he's observing about you. He's just watching you, you know? That's his thing. It's like his roosters. He watches them, you know, and he learns things. He don't need to talk to them. He just watches them and he sees and he's drawn to that. And I think it's the same way with him with fighters. It's the same way. He likes to watch it and he's looking for things that nobody else really sees. So yeah, I mean, I was living in Weed when I was 15. I had done really good at wrestling. I was into like fighting, you know, because of that. I trained a lot, you know, I had weights and everything, so I was always lifting and, you know, hitting the heavy bag and the speed bag and jumping rope and running and, you know, training really hard. And so I wanted to fight. That was kind of like how I identified myself, just because that's what I did all the time. And I loved it too. It's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to do. There just wasn't really like an opportunity. It was just interesting just how it all played out, because I became a Christian at that time. I found God, you know. I went out in the woods right there. I lived right on that main street, Shasta. and I just went straight out towards Mount Shasta, you know. I just went straight out into the woods out there. I remember I read that verse, Deuteronomy 4:29. It said, "But from there you shall seek the Lord your God, and you will find him if you seek after him with all your heart and all of your soul." And I just remember reading that verse and somebody telling me, you know, that this is true, you know, that every word, you know, every word is the word of God and it's true. And I took that verse and I just went out into the woods, and it, you know, I wasn't really influenced really. It was just kind of like me reading that word and doing it myself, you know. It was very uninfluenced in a lot of ways. And I went out into the, you know, into the woods and just prayed. I was like, you know, God, as sincerely as I've ever been, you know, I just said, God, you know, I'm here looking for you. This says that you know, if I do this, I'll find you. And I just felt, I would explain it like, I felt like just perfect peace come over me. You know, I remember just feeling like complete contentment, and felt like time stopped. You know, I had this feeling, this sense of like time stopping, and you know, it felt like eternity to me. I remember just having this like eternal feeling and feeling like everything is done, everything is finished, and I felt whole as a person. And I believed in God. You know, that was my encounter and me finding God in my life. My neighbor goes, "Hey, you know, you're a fighter." You know, I was like, "Yeah, that's me. That's what I do." You know, and I just, you know, just become a Christian and wasn't really, you know, sure what I was gonna do with my life or whatever, and had still been training and everything. And my neighbor goes, "Yeah, you're a fighter." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what I do." And so she goes, "There's this guy, Sam Sleazy, right?" And she goes, "He, you know, he's trained with world champions. He's a world-class fighter. He's the best fighter you've ever seen, you know. He went to the Olympic trials in Colorado. You know, he's fought the best. You know, this guy's doing it, you know." So I hear about this guy in weed, and there's nothing like that going on in weed, you know what I mean? There was there was nothing, you know, it's just like living in the wilderness, basically, in the mountains. So I'm hearing this and I'm just going, I'm like, wow, you know, like God just dropped the answer for my life right in front of me like that, you know, like here it is, you know. And I remember I was just so happy. I was like, this is so great, you know. I'm gonna meet this guy and I'm gonna have him train me, and I'm gonna be a boxer, you know. And that's what I want to do with my life. That's all I wanted to do. And live for God too, you know, because I'd found God. And so I just remember getting his phone number, and I went home and I prayed the same as when I was trying to, you know, find God. I went and prayed, and I was like, God, you know, let me learn everything, you know, that I need to learn from life, and let this guy train me, this guy Sam Sleazy. And I had never met him, you know. I just had his phone number, went home, prayed, and I remember that same peace, that same contentment, everything came over me, and it was like I knew that God heard my prayer, you know. And so feeling good about it, I was like, I got up, got my phone, dialed the number, called, and nobody answered, right? It went to voicemail. I remember it went to voicemail, and I left him a message, and I said, "Hey Sam, you know, I got your phone number. I heard that you could train me to be a fighter. I'll do anything you say." I remember just saying this ridiculous. I was like, "Oh, we'll do anything, you know. Just give me a call, you know, and I'm ready to go." And hung up the phone, and you know, he didn't call me back. And right after that, because you know, I had gotten some street fights and stuff like that. I wanted to fight so bad, so I would get people to fight me. And there was this guy, he had just gotten out of juvenile hall. He was 18, he was released because he was 18. He's a lot bigger than me. And apparently he had fought, you know. So everybody was like, "Hey, you know, you should fight this guy." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it, you know. Let's set it up." they brought him over to my house actually. You know, he said that he was like a professional fighter, which I didn't believe it. You know, I was like, you know, whatever, he's probably just some dude that's just making that up or whatever, you know. And so I was like, bring him over and let's fight. And you know, I'd have people come over and they just go in my backyard and we would just fight, you know. And you know, we went out there. I just remember going out there, and I had no concept, you know, in my mind. I just had no concept of, you know, a good matchup. Like I didn't factor in, I think I was like 145 pounds at the time and he's like 215 pounds. And I'm thinking like, I'm just gonna beat him, you know, cause I beat everybody, you know, but I hadn't fought anyone like that before, you know. I just remember going out there, and I was self-trained too, you know. I was training really hard, but I didn't have a coach. I didn't have anybody correcting me on my technique or, you know, really teaching me anything experienced, you know. It was just me just doing it. And we went outside anyways, and I remember I came at him. I had my stance and everything, and I came at him, and I hit him with a 1-2, you know, really hard. I came straight out and just threw a 1-2, boom, boom. And I just remember hitting him, and I remember his eyes kind of being like, whoa, you know, like this isn't a joke, you know, this dude's, you know, this guy just put some hands on me, you know.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize, because he actually told me afterwards, was that I would bite my lip, which is, you know, it's a tell. I would bite my lip, because that's what I did when I hit the heavy bag. I would bite my lip, and then I would hit it, you know. And I had no idea I was doing that, you know. And so I hit him with that 1-2, and then I come back in there at him again, and I bite my lip again, and I come in for the 1-2, and he knows what I'm gonna do. But this time, instead of me hitting him with the 1-2, he punches me in the stomach. And because I was self-trained, I hadn't learned proper defense, and I just dropped my hands, natural instinct, you know. I dropped my hands and I went up on my toes. I remember I just was like, you know, and he throws that body shot, and then he just hit me with a right hand, just a really hard right hand. And I just remember going down, and you know, I got right back up, right? I go down and I get up, and everybody's just standing there looking at me, you know. And I'm like, what the hell's going on, you know? I'm like, I just like slipped, you know. And everybody's just like looking at me, and they're like, man, they're like, you were knocked out really bad. You've been out for a while, you know. And I had no idea. It was just time lapse, you know. And I'm just like, not really even believing it, but they're just like, yeah, you were out, and you're, you know, convulsing and going into seizures and everything, and totally messed up, you know. And I think I just tried to keep fighting him, because in my mind I was like, nah, that didn't happen, you know. And so I went out and kept trying to fight him, and I remember he hits me again. He's just like, boom, hits me, and my whole entire head just starts throbbing in pain, like when you smash your thumb with a hammer. Like my whole head was just like, goo, goo. And I just remember just like, I just couldn't take the pain. I was just like, oh my God, you know. And I just had to like stop. And you know, I'm 15, we're all a bunch of kids, you know. And so he goes, I was just like, I can't fight. And he's like, oh, no problem, let's do it again tomorrow. And I'm like, you know, yeah, of course, you know. This is what I do. And so I remember that night, like going home and trying to sleep, and when I would lay down, my head would start throbbing again in pain. And so I couldn't sleep. I had to just stay up all night, and I don't even know what's going on, you know. I just know, like, man, I'm messed up. And the next day, I remember, like, he brought over tons of people. You know, he brought over the whole town to come watch us fight, you know. And we go in the backyard, and we get out there, you know, start fighting or whatever. And I just remember, like, just not understanding, you know, what had happened, and just not, you know, all of a sudden it was like I had no idea what to do. It was like, I don't know why I got knocked out. I don't know why that happened. I didn't realize that that could happen even, you know? And I remember he just started coming at me, trying to knock me out. And I just started backing up, you know? And I tripped, and he hit me, and I tripped, and I just fell back into the trash. There was like, we had the trash cans back there, and I just fall into the trash, and like all the trash falls on me, you know? And I just laid there, and I just laid in the trash till everybody left, because I knew, I was like, I can't fight this guy, you know? I didn't know what to say or to do, so I just laid in the trash, and everybody left. And I just remember, like, I never wanted to fight again after that. I was like, I'm never gonna fight again.
So he broke you.
He did. He broke me completely. Like, I just, you know, was not interested in fighting after that. You know, I didn't really comprehend what happened. And I mean, for myself, really, I kind of just erased the memory, you know? I just kind of just pretended it didn't happen. I ended up moving and leaving town and stuff. I just remember, like, kind of moving on with my life anyways, and I just didn't want to fight again. I was like, no, I'm not trying to fight. And I kept lifting weights, you know, I enjoyed lifting weights, but I didn't have any interest in fighting ever again. And 7 years goes by, you know? I mean, like, I moved on with my life and just forgot all about all of this stuff, you know? And then I ended up working at the mill with you. You know, we're working at the mill pulling green chain, and you know, it's kind of like a low point for me in my life. And I just remember, I remember, yeah, I just remember you just mentally, you know, just speaking to me and talking about fighting and all these things, and it just all like really resonated with me and made a lot of sense. And, you know, basically you got me to fight, you know, you got me to fight. And so we're working together, and somehow, you know, you get me to become a fighter. And it was not something I ever had like an ambition to do, you know? It wasn't like I was like, I want to be a fighter or anything like that. It was just like, you would talk about all that is man, and you would talk about, like you're saying, about standing for things and the principles behind it. You're just like, hey, you know, in life, you know, if somebody tries to bully you, you know, you have to stand up for yourself, like those types of things. Yeah. And it all just really like resonated for me. And I end up, you know, fighting. And I remember just like having this sense of just impending doom, you know, in my first fight. I just did not, you know, I had this sense in my mind. I was like, there's no way I could win, you know? I just knew, like, I had that sense, I guess. And I didn't go into the fight to win. I just went into the fight, you know, like standing on all the things that you said, like how you have to stand up for yourself, how you have to be a man, how you have to gain respect, you know? And that's how you do it, is through fighting, you know, which is what you had learned in your life. And that's what it was all about for me, you know? Going in there and gaining respect, self-respect for myself, and also the respect of others, you know? And I went into that first fight completely thinking I was gonna lose the fight, and then I win, you know? Just like the most unexpected thing happens, and I win. And then I fight really quickly right after that, and then I won again, and then I fought again, won again. And then that's when you come to me, you know, and everything's going great. I'm like, this is great. I all of a sudden found a life for myself, you know? And I don't even remember anything from the past. I don't remember like my, you know, training when I was a kid or any of that stuff, you know? I'm just doing this in the moment. And
but you weren't doing it by yourself either. You had, you know,
I wasn't doing it by myself, no.
All of them.
We had a team, you know, and it was really you. I mean, it was with you. I was doing it with you. And
yeah, but you guys were doing it with each other too, because all you guys were in a fucked up ass spot in life at that moment. You know what I mean? Like with John's broken brother that got killed, and he got shot, and you guys were just living just that fucking crazy ass life. With like no light at the end, no light at the end of the tunnel. And then I think that's why it's why even you fought that at that point, was just you guys did it together. You know what I mean? It was something you guys did together.
We had to.
Yep.
We all had to do it.
Yeah, pretty much what every one of you. There wasn't nobody that was there at the first fight in Klamath Falls that I cornered with James. Not one of the people that were there did not fight the next fight. Every one of them fought. Everyone that said, nope, I'm in, let's do it. It was like a...
Oh, we were doing it.
Yeah, it was like a common, oh yeah, we're doing this, and you all did it together, you know what I mean? It was like, I think you guys believed you guys had each other, you know what I mean? Like one of those kind of things is my impression of the time.
Well, I think too, we just had that that belief system that you kind of instilled in everybody, you know, because you talked about all those things. You know, you talked about just standing up for yourself or standing for something, and I think it resonated with me, and then that poured into everybody else because, you know, I told everybody, I was like, we got to do this, you know, and everybody was like, all right, let's do it then, you know. Yep. And everybody just stepped up, you know. I mean, there wasn't really any thinking involved, you know. Everybody was just like, it's just like, we're doing this for the fact to be down.
Yep.
And all it requires is being down, like right now, and that's what we were.
Yep.
Yeah, I just remember though, you know, for myself, like I was so lost at that time in my life, and then it gave me like a life, you know, and I'm winning. I start winning all those fights. And then one day, you know, you're just like, hey man, you know, you have a talent for this, you're doing really good at fighting, you might be able to take this, you know, this might be really something you could do, you know, because you're doing so well at it, you know. And you were like, you know, if it keeps going well and if you want to take it to the next step, you know, I remember you were just like, if you want to take this to the next level and possibly try to go all the way with this. And you're saying this, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, what is he talking about, you know? I was like, everything's great what we're doing, you know? I don't need to do anything, you know? I just want to keep doing what we're doing. But you kept talking, and you're like, you know, if you keep doing how you're doing, I know a guy, and he's the best fighter that I've ever known. He's the baddest guy I've ever met in my life. He knows everything about fighting. He has all the skills. He's just, you know, the greatest fighter, you know, that...
Toughest motherfucker I ever met.
Yeah, all that is man, right?
All that is man.
He just stands for everything, you know, that is fighting. And he has all the skills as well. And he's fought at the top elite levels and everything. And I'm just listening. I remember I'm just listening, and it's like blah, 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 blah. And you're like, he's one of my best friends. And then you said, you know, it's one of my best friends. His name's Sam Sleazy.
Sam, son of pro fighter Lathrop Sleazy, who won 24 of 30 professional fights, started boxing in memory of his father. Originally from Weed, California, Sam trained and worked out of standalone MMA in Chico, California. After a fight in Coos Bay, Sam was introduced to Joe Pedro Yeti, owner of the Bulldog Boxing Club of Medford, Oregon, who later talks him into moving to Medford to work at his furniture store and train with his fighters at the club. Sam would go on to qualify for the National USA Boxing Championships at the U.S. Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. Winning state and regional championships in the heavyweight division, Sleazy made his presence known with a second-round TKO over Tyrone Porter before heading to nationals. As Scott prepared for his next fight, we followed him to Higgs Gym to see where he currently trains.
I've had a Higgs Gym since 2003, so it's been around a while. Started in Taekwondo, that was my original martial arts.
Okay.
Did that for a long time, and started the gym in 2003, and did the Taekwondo program for a long time, and then about 2007, scrapped the Taekwondo and started to go into the MMA world.
Okay.
It was doing a little bit of everything, and then the parkour element started to catch on.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And so yeah, it's kind of neat. We have an interesting dynamic. We have the parkour program and then the martial art program, but they complement each other.
Yeah, work hand in hand kind of.
Yeah, yeah, you know, the whole fight and flight thing.
Yeah.
You know, the martial arts teaching you how to fight, defend yourself, and then the parkour is the element or the art of movement,
Right.
of fleeing or chasing. So they go well together.
What motivates you to fight, and what's your inspiration in building all this and everything? Like, what's your inspiration behind that?
That's a good question. It's as I reflect, you know, over the years and how I got here, it's not something that I planned for. My faith has led me here. When I first started the gym back in 2003, I was it was kind of a hobby, and I was nervous about it because I wanted it to be successful. I wanted to have students, and I just tried to follow a simple teaching in the Bible, and that is, you know, whatever you do, do it unto the Lord, and be faithful in the small things. If God gives me one student, be faithful to that student, and do the best that I possibly can to help them flourish and prosper in the art that I'm showing them. So I've tried to just keep that in the forefront of my mind and as my motivation, that, you know, whatever I do it first and foremost for the glory of God. And also that with whatever He gives me, whether it's a big program with lots of students, or a small program, that I'm faithful with whatever He's given me. So that's kind of the underlying motivation. And on top of that, jiu-jitsu is my passion. That's what I'm competitive in right now. That's what I focus on personally as far as competing. Both gi, no gi, some of the bigger tournaments that I've had success at. In 2013 at Gracie Worlds, I won that, which is cool. That was a submission-only tournament, no time limit. I won the US Open as blue belt in 2012, as purple belt in 2013, and then recently, just this last October, as brown belt. At US Open, and Pan Ams in 2014, I got the bronze medal there. So those are kind of some of my bigger accomplishments, and I'm looking forward to doing some bigger ones here in 2016. The gym started out as a hobby back in 2003, but you know, it's to the point now where it's a full-time gig. You know, I'm teaching a lot. You know, every day from 3 to 8, I'm in there coaching classes. Plus we have a morning class. Plus I do private lessons. So you know, there's a lot going on with the gym right now, and we're actually we just recently bought some property in town. Within the next year, we're going to be building a brand new state-of-the-art facility in town. So that's going to allow us to reach more people. But on top of that, I'm also a third-generation farmer. So I've been driving tractors since, you know, I can remember. You know, driving on the roads from different properties before I could even drive a car, and it's been it's just been part of my life. You know, brought up with it, and so I still currently do that. I mostly focus on grass hay. And I produce hay and I sell it, and I also cut other people's hay. And so that, you know, that keeps me busy during the season. And we're kind of coming up on the season right now, and so here, you know, May and June, I'll kind of focus on that as my priority. But when those first cuttings are done, then I can kind of refocus back on the gym. Yeah. Sweet.
As Scott prepared to weigh in for his fight, tensions were high. Some humble, some cocky, some confident.
Did you already check in?
I feel calm and crazy at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, I feel good. I mean, I tried to be super humble and respectful last night, and they apparently wanted to run their mouths, so, well, I'm ready to talk, but not verbally. So we'll see what happens. I'm not mad about it. So don't shake my hand. I don't shake my hand or don't shake my hand. I'm still gonna try my best either way to hurt you. So.
The name of your promotion is
Rogue Promotions 541.
Rogue Promotions 541. Okay, and this is the first show in a while, right? The Rogue Redemption.
Well, so the name of the fighting series is Arena Wars, Mixed Martial Arts Cage Fighting Series. So, and this is the first one in Grants Pass in about 10 years. First one in Southern Oregon and a couple, with many more to come.
Awesome, awesome. You guys got a lot of great fighters tonight, I see.
Yeah, we're stacked.
Yeah,
it's gonna be exciting.
I'm looking forward to it. What's your favorite fight? What's the one you want to see tonight the most?
I want to see Scott and Mike fight.
That one's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, that one
yeah.
I think is gonna be the best one.
How long have you been in the fight game, and what motivates you to come out here and with all these fighters?
I started fighting when I was 17. I grew up a wrestler, and Chael Sonnen was one of my wrestling coaches. And when he got into fighting, him and Randy, I was like, I'm going to be a fighter, you know.
Yeah.
And so kind of got into that, and went pro right away. Been fighting a long time, and got into coaching 6 years ago. And so now been into coaching and just love it. Love you know, helping people and doing the schedules and motivating the fighters. And tonight, Michael Colazo, my fighter's a co-main event. He's got a really tough fight. He's fighting Scot Davenport.
Yep.
So we're pretty excited about that. So I'm just here to support.
That's awesome. That's great. And what gym do you train out of and train all your guys out of?
The Impact Jiu-Jitsu facilities. So there's 11 of them in Oregon.
Okay.
And all of them kind of doing MMA hubs, and we all train out of those.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. And you've been doing it for how long, you said?
This is going on coaching 6 years. I've been in MMA I'm on my 16th year being in MMA.
Awesome. And do you have any fights under your belt personally?
Yeah, I'm 10-6 as a pro, and then I've had I'm 15-2 in kickboxing and 5-1 in professional boxing. So
awesome.
I've definitely done a lot of well-rounded fighting. I got really fortunate in 2012. I won Coach of the Year from Northwest Fight Scene magazine, and we won Gym of the Year as well. We set a record in the Northwest. We went 74-11 that year with our fighters, and that was just an awesome year. And been doing that ever since. So now we're back at it with Davenport again. But Scott's he's a very dangerous opponent. He's very crafty. I always have to really work my game plan to go against him. So we're excited to see what happens tonight. I'm excited about it.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No, that's awesome. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for today. Thank you for this opportunity that you've given me and my opponent, Michael Colazo, to fight in front of all these people. I pray for Michael's protection. Pray that you protect him 100%, completely protect him from injury. Pray that you give him peace in his heart tonight, and give him the strength and the spirit to perform to his best abilities. I pray that our fight be one that everyone remembers and that people talk about, and I pray that it changes people's lives. I pray that our sportsmanship, our respect for each other, and the path that we're on, it glorifies you, God. I pray that all glory goes to you, and I pray that we really make a difference in these people's lives that are here today. And God, I pray these things in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
All right,
Thank
buddy.
you.
You bet. Thank you. Now let's go to war.
Let's do it. Fight of the night, bro.
Yes, sir. Catch you in a little bit.
Foreign got it.
when the shells drop up and out of town. Stacking my money and making my rounds. Stuffing your bitch, can't bring her around. I hit them for Phyllis to break them back down. Get a bitch back, straight from the ground, straight from the ground. The checks on her phone, she fucking on me now. I'm feeling like I need to bury. All of my weed is heavy. It's just on the bench, this shit about me scary. And I said it for more. Never get a $3 no more. When I said it for dog, she got me professional. I did that today, don't look personal. Up the street, to the street. I'm in for the police, the road stuff. From Parkway to Fort Ward, and the red clay, red nose of my front door. Everything that you want more. And the crew with my dog, you say somebody yard, don't call for a gram, gotta get more. Oh, we was in the meadows at the start. Me and my dog, me and my dog. Don't talk that pussy, now it's Chevy, really hard. Me and my dog.
Fighter standing to my right, fighting out of the Wild River Pub red corner. He has a mixed martial arts record of 12 wins and 10 losses. He stands 5'11". He weighed in at 205 pounds. He trains out of Hicks Gym, and he fights out of San Jose, California. Scot, the son of God, Davenport. And the fighter standing to my left and fighting out of the Oregon Matches Authority blue corner. He has a record of 4 wins and 4 losses. He stands 5'11" tall. He weighed in at 205 pounds. He's training out of Team Impact and fights out of Milwaukee, Oregon. Michael, the Breadman, Clazo. seconds. The winner in the blue corner, Michael the President Colazo. Great match, great match. Michael the Bread Man. So, about the second round, I kind of noticed when you guys ended up over here, you gave a week. What was that about?
Just saying what's up to the people. Gotta know the curriculum and have fun with it. It's a sport, it's brutal as hell. If you're not having fun, what's the point of doing it?
You're fine, man. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Let's give it up for these two guys. And the Superweight champion, Michael the Breadman Colazo.
One time we went out, I went with Scott to corner him for a fight in Oregon, and he was fighting some guy, I can't remember his first name, I think his last name was McDonald. I know it was McDonald. And this guy came to the fight, and man, this guy was in like great shape. And I remember Scott, he, right before weigh-ins, we all went out to eat, and I thought, you know, maybe he'd get like something that would be light or whatever. Scott gets a steak sandwich and French fries right before weigh-ins, goes and weighs in, and he's staring face to face with this guy that's in like, you know, good shape, six-pack, shredded, big, muscular, like, and it doesn't even enter Scott's mind, I feel like, any of that. He's just there to fight whoever is across from him, and preferably the toughest, biggest, most difficult opponent to beat possible. And with all that being said, I remember that night we're all hanging out in the living room, you know, watching TV, and usually the person fighting is the most nervous, you know, like restless, you know, a little bit hard to sleep. I remember we're all just hanging there, hanging out, and I look over and he's just snoring, asleep, like the night before his fight. And there's like 5 or 6 of us that are all there just hanging out, and I'm like, man, what I would give to be able to just, you know, like sleep like a baby right before I'm about to go fight, you know, heavyweight fight, title fight in Oregon. That's at a really nice venue actually too. That was just crazy. And he goes out and he beats that guy and wins the title, and he beats him by just savage punches and knees and just mainly heart. But yeah, right before he won his second or third heavyweight belt, he ate a steak sandwich and French fries and fell asleep before everybody. That's Scott. Like, he's been someone that inspired me over time to just like realize a lot of things are just bullshit, bro. At the end of the day, you gotta just go in there and compete and fight, and like, whether you drank spring water or ate a steak sandwich or whatever, it may have a little bit of an effect, but it's still a fight, still anything can happen, and still like everything that brought you to that point is what's gonna determine a lot of things, you know? It's not like the little things. Like, I used to always try to get him to run. Like, if I was like restless, you know, before a fight, like trying to go to sleep and I couldn't, be like, let's go for a run. He's like, bro, I've already ran a lot in my life. He's like, I don't need to run to win a fight. He's like, you don't need to run to win a fight. And I'm like, dude, I need to run to get my mind right. And he's like, you'll see, you'll see. Like, he's just like, you know, like, and it's like eventually you realize like a lot of things you were doing were like unnecessary, but you needed to do it to get your mind right, to go into things, you know? And I think he is a crazy motherfucker, like, in regular life, but he, like, fighting just makes so much sense to him, you know? Like, it just, like, is what he's in love with.